To solve this data sufficiency question, we'll consider each statement separately first and then together if needed. Before we dive into the statements, let's go ahead and label our diagram that we're given with a little bit more information. We're told that in the figure shown above, lines R and S are parallel. So we can actually just mark these as parallel for now, just so that we don't forget. If they're parallel, we can then conclude that we have these inner angles, the interior angles here of this polygon or quadrilateral. So let's go ahead and label those. If we think about two parallel lines, we do have alternate interior angles, meaning that if this angle right here is W, it follows that this angle down here is W. So we can go ahead and fill in these interior angles with our alternate interior angles because these lines are parallel. So let's go ahead and do that, and we might need that later. So if this angle's X, we have that this angle is also X. And by the same pattern, we have that this angle would be Y, and this angle down here would be Z. So now that we have those labeled, we can actually deduce some information right off the bat. We know that X plus W would equal 180 because they're supplementary. They're lined up against a parallel line here. We have Z and Y, the sum would be 180. Same thing for these two angles and these two angles. So if we need that, we can write that down a little bit later. So let's take a look at statement 1. Statement 1 tells us W plus X is equal to 180. And if we take a look at our image here, W plus X would be 180. So that's actually no new information than what we could deduce by the information given in the question on its own. So this statement alone is not sufficient because we're asked whether, or the question asks us, is X equal to Y? And with this information, we can't really deduce, we have no information about Y. So this statement alone is not sufficient, and we can eliminate answer choice A and D right now. So we're still left with B, C, and E as answer choices, so we'll need to go ahead and consider statement 2. For statement 2, we're told that W plus Z equals 180. Now, we can actually take a look at the image and try to deduce some things to narrow down our variables and see if we can deduce anything given this statement. We can actually use this relationship, X plus W equals 180. I'm just going to scroll down a little bit so that we have some room. So we're given, essentially, we can deduce that X plus W equals 180. And if we take this, we can isolate W, and we end up with 180 is equal to, W is equal to 180 minus X. Now we can take this and plug in to the given equation. So if we do that, we'll end up with a 180 minus X plus Z equals 180. And if we simplify this, we can conclude that X is equal to Z. So that's a relationship that's really nice for us. But we are asked, is X equal to Y? So we need to relate Y somehow to Z to see if we can relate those. Taking a look at our image, relating Y to Z, we know that Y plus Z is equal to 180 because of our interior angles are supplementary here to the exterior. So Y plus Z is equal to 180. And if we isolate Z here, we end up with 180, or Z equals 180 minus Y. And doing a similar thing to what we did before, we can actually replace Z in this equation. So replacing Z in this equation, we end up with X is equal to 180 minus Y. Now the question asks, is X equal to Y? And for us, it kind of depends with this statement because we have a couple different cases. If Y is equal to 90 degrees, then we can plug in and 180 minus 90 would also equal 90. So in this case, Yes, x would equal y. But suppose y is any other value. Let's say y is equal to 20. That would mean that x is equal to 160. And in this case, the answer to the question would be no, x is not equal to y. So for us, it kind of depends on what the value of y is. And since we don't know the actual value of y, we don't get a definitive value for whether x or answer yes or no for all x and y. So this statement alone is not sufficient. And if we scroll back up, we can eliminate answer choice B because statement 2 alone is not sufficient. Our last resort to choose between C and E is to decide whether statements 1 and 2 together are sufficient. So let's scroll down a little bit and consider putting our statements together. So statement 1 and 2 together, let's take a look at what we used from statement 1. Now statement 1 wasn't actually any new information. So we used that information actually when we reasoned out statement 2 because that information holds for the entire problem, no matter that the statement also said it. So in actuality, when we combine our statements, the only statement we're really dealing with that gives us new information is statement 2. And since we reasoned out that even with statement 2, we can't definitively answer the question, combining the statements is not going to help. So the two statements together will not be sufficient. And if we scroll back up, we can actually eliminate answer choice C, and our correct answer is answer choice D. Statement 1 and 2 together are not sufficient.